It's time for the Voice of Reason podcast. Here are your hosts, Sean Phillips, Andy Van Beber, and Travis Kirkendall.
Oh, yeah, I'm the one in charge.
That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Voice of Reason podcast. My name is Sean Phillips, not paying attention as always. Joined alongside my co-host, Mr. Andrew J. Van Beber V. How are you doing today?
All I gotta say is I can now say that I am friends with a published author who or a friend with a published author and whose spouse is on this podcast. That's just
Thank you.
Congratulations to the future Miss Tony Phillips, who is Tony Marsh, who has her book published and is on Amazon. Go check it right out now. Misery Loves Company. Mine is coming in tomorrow, and I cannot. We are so happy for Tony. How is the author doing? How is she taking all this?
No, she's good. She's excited. The response has been phenomenal. The day it actually went live, her cousin got it via Kindle, and her cousin is a huge reader. And Tony was like, "Hey, no nonsense. Really, tell me how was it?" And her cousin finished it the night she got it. She read all 250 something plus pages in one sitting. She's like, she couldn't put it down.
Wow.
And I've read the entirety of the book as it's been written, and I can say, and this is just not even tooting the horn, I thoroughly enjoyed each time I had to review one of the chapters as I was going along reading it over the course of the past couple of years. So it's a great read. It's a horror novel, so it's definitely not everyone's cup of tea. But again, we appreciate all the support of everyone that has purchased the book. It seriously is awesome. I'm super excited for her. She's already working on different ways to kind of continue promoting the book and deep diving into starting her next novel. So
fantastic.
Yeah. So again, thank you to everyone. If you do listen and you've purchased the book, thank you. If you are a listener, yes, it is Misery Loves Company by Tony Phillips. We just had her get a head start on the last name.
That's right.
So Misery Loves Company by Tony Phillips. It's available on Amazon.com. You can order a paperback copy, or you can buy it on Kindle, or you can get it. You can read it for free using the Kindle Unlimited app. So,
Misery Loves Company book
options.
And there it is. Tony. Man, she did do it as Tony Phillips. That is awesome. Now
she did.
Man, good job, pal. Good job.
Yep, locked her in. So whenever
that means it's official now.
She makes it big and decides to leave me, I get to collect the alimony.
Oh my gosh, that's
forward to.
Oh, that is fantastic.
No, otherwise, it's been a pretty crazy week. Work has been crazy. Another quick update for our listeners. Something that has kind of been going on in my life. My youngest daughter, Lillian, who's 9 months old, will actually be 10 months old here in just a couple of days, was recently diagnosed with epilepsy. So the course of the last couple of months/weeks, starting in February, Lillian had a seizure, and then it turned into a couple of different seizures. We have gone back and forth with the neurologist trying to get answers. And over last weekend, she had 3 seizures within a day. She is fine. Her development is fine. It's one of those crazy things where they happen, and then she is back. She naps for an hour and then is back to being her normal self, and until the next one comes. And so, thankfully, because the doctors were not seeing any damage to her brain, At least they didn't think they were seeing any damage to her brain. We talked and felt like the safest step moving forward was to start some medication. And it was a long conversation that Tony and I had and that we had with the doctor to ensure that it was the right step for us. And so hopefully we're in a little bit of a trial period of what is trying to find that sweet spot of dosage, but hopefully going forward this means no more seizures until she kind of hopefully grows out of them. So that is just the quick update of kind of what this week has entailed. But she's healthy, the older kid's healthy, and we are happy, healthy, and moving along. So
And we kind of, that's just to share with our listeners the times, the weeks that we have been off. Those have been kind of the episodes that we have had, and Sean would say when he was comfortable talking about it, and so there we go. But we love Lily, we love Jam, and we kind of love Sean. Definitely love the published artist, author, but it is what it is. So yeah, so this is a moving forward. We're kind of tossing around ideas, but I think we've got about 5 or 6 more weeks before we reach the 3-year show anniversary. Thinking about doing big things, and I just want to throw this out there. Sean didn't know I was going to throw this out there, but we want to throw it out to you, the listeners. Reach out to us via our web page or our Facebook page or TikTok or whatever. Would you, if we had a little broadcast, if we had a thing at the local dining establishment known as McDinger's, would you all like to come out and see us live? We would do a live show to celebrate our 3-year anniversary, something we've talked about doing for a long time. And we are both friends with the manager at McDinger's, who has been very receptive to the idea. And so let us know. Let us know in our comments, message us on Facebook Messenger, or just reach out to us in text, because we would love to hear if you guys would like to come and watch us live. Not that we're any more impressive live than we are on this platform, but if you could pay to see this, or if you could come and see this in person, these two faces right here. So anyway, leading off tonight, Sean, I want to read something to you. I hit you with a cold open last week. I'm going to hit you with another cold open this week. As of Tuesday of this week, headline USA, Boy Scouts of America is rebranding, and here's why they will be named Scouting America. And so 114 years ago, Texas-based organization Boy Scouts of America been mired in turmoil over a flood of sexual abuse claims and bankruptcy. And so now they're dropping the boys from Boy Scouts of America and are just going to be, that's right, Scouting America. Now, this is not supposed to happen until February of 2025, but a lot of people are asking, why are they changing the name? So I'll just read the official from the head of Boy Scouts of America. The name puts a focus on inclusivity. This guy's name is Cron. I didn't catch his first name, but he says that the Boy Scouts have wanted a name going forward that made clear that all children and teens are very, very welcome. He added that when people question the organization why it needs a new name, he points to historically low membership numbers. Like other organizations, the Scouts lost members during the pandemic when participation was difficult. Currently, the organization serves just over 1 million young people, including more than 176,000 girls and teens. Membership peaked in 1972 at 5 million, but now they're just over 1 million. He says, our mission remains unchanged. We are committing to teaching young people to be prepared for life, and this was in the written statement that was released on Tuesday. Just a little bit of a history lesson. In 2001, Dale versus Boy Scouts of America was a case that went before the Supreme Court that said the Boy Scouts had the right to, because it was part of their credo that they did not have to allow gay people into their organization. Then, as of 2013, they began allowing gay members in, and they ended the blanket ban. punt, little play on words. Blanket ban on gay adult leaders in 2015. In 2017, it made the announcement that girls would be accepted as Cub Scouts, and as of 2018, and 2 years later, into the Boy Scouts of America. As of what was it? Oh, where was the number? I saw another number later down. There are currently over 1,800 Eagle Scouts that are girls in Boy Scouts of America. What I thought was really interesting about this is that Girl Scouts of America last year filed a lawsuit against Boy Scouts of America because they had taken issues with the Boy Scouts opening its doors to girls throughout the ranks, and they had filed this lawsuit saying it created marketplace confusion and damaged their recruitment efforts. The two organizations.
Will you repeat that? You repeat that? What you
Yes.
just said?
They said they had the Girl Scouts of the USA had taken issue with the Boy Scouts opening its doors to girls throughout its ranks and filed a lawsuit saying it created marketplace confusion and damaged their recruitment efforts. The two organizations reached a settlement agreement after a judge rejected those claims, saying both groups are free to use words like scouts and scouting. So we have entered into. So I was talking about this with some of our staff today at the office, and man, the inclusivity of Boy Scouts of America, that it was too, it was too narrow. Boy Scouts. How dare you treat Boy Scouts in this way, boys in this way, and make it inclusive only to boys. Your original thoughts, sir. I'm curious to hear what you would have to say about this. Well, I lost your voice there, Sean. Did you mute yourself there?
Oh, yep. I apologize. So I'm kind of confused.
I'm really confused, so don't worry.
So the first thing is, and I'd have to look more into it, but are boys welcome into the Girl Scouts of America? Like, can a young boy join the Girl Scouts of America if he so wanted to? Because that's the big thing, is if they're like, if they are allowing boys into the Girl Scouts of America, then I don't understand how they could try to sue. I didn't realize the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts had this kind of conflict. That is kind of what is crazy to me. But neither here nor there. So here's the thing. I don't know. It's the Boy Scouts. I was a Boy Scout for. I was a Cub Scout, and then it's a Wolf Scout, and then it's a Tiger Scout. I think, or it's Cub,
Pueblo,
Tiger,
or
Wolf.
Is there? I don't.
Let's
I'm
see
not
here.
familiar.
I'm gonna look it up real fast. I was in the Boy Scouts, and I know I made it to like whatever the third thing was, and then I moved to Missouri, and then where I lived didn't have a Boy Scout troop near me, which it was a bummer, because I actually really enjoyed the Boy Scouts, and I think that there's a lot of really good things that you can learn within the Boy Scouts. Now, I do know that the two organizations, Girl Scouts of America, Boy Scouts of America, there are some vast differences, at least in my experience, because my sister was awarded the Gold Award through the Girl Scouts. She was in the Girl Scouts for a very long time with a lot of her friends throughout high school, and obviously they sell cookies, but they were more focused on like volunteer activities, whereas the Boy Scouts was more focused on like camping and hiking and shit like that. It was very much more of a like, let's do these different activities thing, and the Girl Scouts was, let's do volunteer work. At least that's what my sister's troop was. Mm-hmm. So I can see why there are girls that wanted to be more involved with an organization like the Boy Scouts. Mm-hmm. It's a shame that the Girl Scouts couldn't just do something like that. Because I was looking over, when you had mentioned it, I looked at one of these there's an individual, a young lady that spoke to um, a group. Her name is Shelby something,
Oh yeah, I saw she
and she's actually from the University
Selby
of Missouri.
Chipman. Selby
So,
Chipman.
yeah, Selby Chipman, and she goes to Mizzou,
Yep.
but she spoke, and so it looks like she is in an all girls troop within the Boy Scouts. So I don't know if that is just they have set it up that way, or if let's just say like if Clopton had a Boy Scout troop, if girls were allowed into that troop, or if they had to do their own under the umbrella. So Scouting America is now the umbrella for the entire, I guess, what it is. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like, couldn't have Scouting America just be its own thing if it was going to mix boys and,
Well,
and girls? Like,
yeah.
because my take on it is I want my kids to be involved in Scouts, and truthfully, I would prefer my daughters be involved in something more like what the Boy Scouts is, that has the emphasis on outdoor adventuring and stuff like that.
See, I have mixed views about this as well because number one, I grew up. I don't know about you, but I grew up with my dad is up in he's 90 years old now. He's not able to anymore, but I grew up as raised in the outdoors. You know, you were
Yeah.
fishing, hunting. I mean, we hunted turkey, we hunted deer, we fished catfish, bass. We would travel to places to go fishing. This was who we were. And as an adult, and since I've had my children home up until last year, we just didn't have time last year. But my kids, for the last 5 years, we go out on camping trips. We would take, first time I ever done tent camping in my life. And I loved it. And I enjoy the outdoors. And I think that it's something that is lost on this new generation. Hence, I would imagine that's probably part of the reason why the number of Boy Scouts has gone down to where it was. What they said back in 1974, 5 million members, and now they're just barely over a million. Rebranding may be the right thing for the Boy Scouts to do because
100%.
it's you're not as long as and maybe you can film. I don't really know what the original scouting, what their mission statement is or what their. But I mean, if it's something that's going to promote outdoor learning, love of the outdoors, survival skills, and if it being a service organization now. Like you said, Girl Scouts is a totally different thing. Like you said, it is a service organization as well, but it's more aimed towards that. Excuse me. But so obviously our good friend Ted Cruz, senator from Texas, has voiced his displeasure with this. One of the Georgia Republican Andrew Clyde said wokeness destroys everything it touches, and so the right is looking at this as something as a response to wokeness. I don't know if I really buy into that, but as of last year, and I mentioned the whole thing about bankruptcy too. Through my reading, it was last year they did chapter, what is the reorganization one? I think it's chapter 11 or chapter 12 bankruptcy, but it was a 2.8 or 2.4 billion dollar debt reorganization plan that took effect with the Boy Scouts. So maybe this is something that they need, and then you had what was it? They said over the course of the last 10 years that there have been a reported 80,000 men who said they were sexually abused as children while scouting. So maybe this is something that the Boy Scouts need to put a new face on things. I don't know, but I have a hard time. I think it's one of those things where people have a hard time breaking with tradition. And you have people like your Ted Cruz's, this guy, Andrew Clyde, Even Bill Clinton, who was a Boy Scout himself, I did not have. But Harrison Ford, Steven Spielberg, Buzz Aldrin, they're just the name of some of these guys. Some of these guys are on board with this and other people aren't. But is it, I mean, do you see? Can you see? Do you see this as a woke thing? Is this a woke thing?
Not necessarily. I can see why people are naturally going to be upset about anything. Um, I think that it is. I'm with you. I think that this is a big thing for branding, for scouting, and just look at how like the youth overall has
Oh
changed.
God.
It is not a surprise to me that scout units are down. That shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. Kids aren't even outside anymore. Cause like
Right.
so, I want your perspective on this. So we know that times have changed. We know
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
I feel like as adults, as I've become an adult, I kind of like I don't look at back at what my parents did as like any kind of negative thing, but like okay, your kids, right? If where you live, let's say in relation, how far would you say you are from in Louisiana to get to like the Dairy Queen in Louisiana?
A mile and a half.
Okay. So let's say on a Thursday after school, you get home and your two kids asked if they could walk to Dairy Queen to get ice cream and walk back. What would your thoughts be on that?
I walk there. I would be kind of nervous.
Right.
Maybe
So,
if they had their bikes to get away from a stranger, maybe.
right, right. Because like even now, look at how different like, I mean, I think it's a good thing because I mean, now that I'm old, teenagers, but I remember growing up when I would be trick or treating, you could just kind of go trick or treating as a kid. Like
Right.
I
Right.
like you could just go. Now those days are gone.
Yeah.
Like kids are with their parents. Um, Rarely do you see teens running amok. It's kind of like a lot of that stuff has just changed, and I think it's the same thing for like the scouts. I don't necessarily know if it's something that the youth are really involved. I also think that there's the other spin on it is you have to have parental involvement. You have to have individuals that can volunteer a lot of time and resources. And this is, maybe this is kind of just you know, the wrong answer, but maybe it's harder for when I think Boy Scouts, right? I remember a lot of like blue collar dads were kind of the ones that were involved, people that kind of knew how to camp and get, down on their knees. And a lot of those folks are working a lot more than they ever used to. So, parental involvement of being able to expend resources towards something like the Boy Scouts might not be the first thing on people's mind with how expensive things are and how the world is today. So, I don't know. I don't think it's a bad thing. I really don't. Now, when you talk about how there, unfortunately with the scouts, there were tens of thousands of reports of sexual misconduct, which is
That's
a
a
shame.
shame. Right.
Um, you know, I hope that the inclusion of adding of girls and women to the Boy Scouts of America, that is not a trend that, that trend should have never occurred in the first place. And I hope that we don't see an uptick, but I hope that, that he's got to be careful. Like even in the military, um, it wasn't up until just like recently in the grand scheme of things that women were allowed into combat MOSs. Um,
Right. That's still
and,
relatively new. Right.
and where you're able to, where the military felt like they were able to trust adult men and women, um, in
To
the same
code.
building together,
Right. Right.
kind of
Right.
nonsense. So
But
you ask of that
the
of teenagers is also, it's just one of those things where I don't think it's a bad thing. I think for a number's sake it's great. I want my kids to be involved in scouts, and I am actually excited that they can be more involved in something that is real world I mean, let me rephrase that. The Girl Scouts, there's a bunch of real world application to that.
Yeah.
But also getting outdoors, doing that.
Outdoors.
And
right.
I have to look up if like, let's say for example, if my daughters, if they could be a member of both boys and
Girl Scouts for sure.
Girl
And
Scouts.
I you know, when you look at, and you mentioned the teens of today, you know, as I'm getting into these later years of my career, and I can look back at what involvement kids had and stuff. I think Scouts in general, boys and Girl Scouts, provided that outlet for kids to be, like I said earlier, being plugged into their community, being involved in stuff, being involved with the community, knowing who their community leaders are, being involved in different things, you know, and learning about things, learning about your civic organizations, learning about your outdoor stuff, and all this is great. But now, and you brought up a great point earlier, Sean, that I want to go back to get kids even to go outdoors anymore. I mean, the battle that I fight, and you know, as Jam gets older and Lily will eventually get older, you know, hey, let's go outside. Let's put the controller down. Let's put the little magic, you know, weirdo box down. Let's go outside and do something. You know, my daughter, if it's nice outside and it's, you know, above 65 degrees, she's out there shooting. Sometimes she's out there shooting. I mean, she'll shoot basketball for 2 hours, you know. But on that same thing, though, it's almost like you said, parents are almost terrified to let their kids go too far outside because you have this society of creeps who are, I hate to say it, but just who are out trolling for kids. Right 30 minutes up the road here from me, one of my best friends, and I'm not going to mention my name, but he's a district manager for Dollar General, and his wife posted on social media about a month ago, and he has security cams on his house, and she posted this is in a small town of 1,500 that they live in, and their kids were just out playing in the yard, in their side yard, not even out by the street, out in their swing set. And the mom is on the back porch, and she's kind of just sitting in a chair, and this guy slows his car and starts getting out of the car and walking towards these kids, you know. And so I can see why people would be hesitant, why numbers are dropping in the Scouts, because you know, back in 1974 we didn't think about, you know, in the 70s, we didn't think about the guys in you know, the panel vans or shag carpeted vans that, hey, little kid, you know. But now we're living in this society that is so advanced and I guess the word I would use is accelerated from the times when I grew up, that activities like the Scouts may be something that is going to go by the wayside. I would hate to say that, but when I look at it and I see and that was when I was reading this article today, and I saw that the numbers that went from 5 million down to 1 million in my lifetime, that's pretty shocking, because like you say, you know, kid, if it's not summer baseball or summer softball or some kind of travel league, kids really aren't involved in anything that's really developmental, you know. I know churches have their youth groups, and even if you're in these small town country churches, some of these churches are even dying because they can't get get young people into, and so maybe it's because there's more. I mean, there is more. There's not maybe it is that there are more things that are competing for kids' attention these days, and I'm afraid that by doing that, we're going to get such a disconnected generation that is not only unfamiliar with the outdoors, but I think unfamiliar with survival in general. How do I function in this world where I'm not, you know, we want our kids to grow into functioning adults, not but somebody who's going to be lying in the fetal position over in the corner, you know, when times start getting tough. I mean, I may be going way over the edge with this, but I mean, I see this as, you know, I never was in the Scouts, but the church, so the Baptists that we had our we had our thing that was basically Scouts for Church. It was called Royal Ambassadors. And it did, I mean, it was basically the Baptist version of the Boy Scouts. And it was, we did the camping trips, we did the Pinewood Derby cars, we did the, and then you add in the religious aspect of it, of learning scriptures and stuff like that, and it was cool. I did it all the way through my freshman year of high school, and I thought it was great. But I'm afraid that as we get pulled away from more of the stuff, then kids are lured into whatever. We're going to get this disconnected group of this generation of kids that are going to be totally out of touch with what reality is. That was rambling too long. That's okay.
Yeah.
Did I lose you?
Oh,
there you are.
No. You're absolutely right. I look at it as a perspective of someone that was pretty actively involved with it. Like, I think it all just depends on kind of where you live too. Like, maybe when I moved to rural Missouri, they felt like they didn't need a Boy Scouts because
we're farm
people were
boys.
Camping and
Yeah.
going out into the woods to play in the creek as it was. Because I grew up in a town of from I was born in Bismarck, North Dakota, and then at 3 months old, my family shipped me to a town called Dubuque, Iowa, where I lived there up until I was in 4th grade when I moved to Clopton, in Missouri. But one of the things about where I grew up in Iowa was I was very active in Boy Scouts and things like soccer. I was very involved in soccer because they were there. And then my life got, kind of turned upside down because I was causing trouble in my neighborhood and got in one little fight. My mom got scared and said, "Yeah, moving to Whiteside, Missouri." But no, so I moved there, and then there's no soccer anywhere, no Boy Scouts. So kind of the two things that I remember being pretty involved with, and like there were other things too. Like I did judo and wrestling growing up as a kid. We definitely didn't have that around Clopton. And so I think it just kind of depends on where you're at. I feel like a Boy Scout troop. Do you know if there's any kind? I was on Boy Scouts of America. I tried looking up.
I know there's Girl Scout. There's actually 2 Girl Scout troops in Louisiana. I know that for a fact because I've been following drama on Facebook with some parents but as far as Boy Scout, the nearest Boy Scout.
Do you know what Eolia's zip code is? Is it
63344? Does that sound right? 63344.
Let's find out. This is just Cub Scouts. Eolia. No, so it looks like the closest pack, if
Hannibal,
you're in that area, is in Ellsbury. There is one in Ellsbury. There is one in Troy, and it looks like there is a pack in Louisiana, Wright City, and then it gets out to like St. Paul.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's too bad because I feel like Eolia, Clarksville, that area would be a great spot for a Cub Scout group, and I feel like there has to be a Girl Scout troop near. Let's see if I can find out. Because I feel like I have seen Scouts do stuff at Clopton. Now, whether or not that lived any kind of length, or if it's just
you must have. I've never seen that, but
I feel like I've seen that once or twice, years and years, like when I was still in school. So, because I know, like my sister's group, they met either at like the church in Whiteside, or I don't even know.
Yeah.
I think, it was a different parent was like the, okay, so it looks like, gosh, it doesn't have an exact time. Somewhere around Eolia, there is a Girl Scout troop. It doesn't say what town, though. It just says 6.3 miles away from the zip code of 63344. So they're around there, but I mean, that's funny though that you mentioned that there's drama amongst the Girl Scout.
Yeah, and I think
parents, which also leads to more people wanting to join the Girl Scouts when you have a fucking cookie turf war.
Cookie turf war. Listen, Winch, this is where we sell. You move down the block.
And you want to know what else is bullshit? I remember back in the day. This is the thing about the Girl Scouts that pisses me off. Back in the day, you could get a box of Girl Scout cookies.
Oh, here it is.
Tree bitty. $3.50. You could get a box of Girl Scout cookies. Girl Scout.
$6.
Girl Scout cookies.
$6. $6. Good Lord, that's a lot of money.
You know that those fucking tag-alongs only have 12 in a box.
I was just getting ready to say that. There's only 12 in a box. Oh, I don't need Girl Scout cookies, but anyway. Hey, one other issue we wanted to touch on tonight is the growth in popularity, totally switching gears, but the growth of pro-Palestinian protests on university campuses that are occurring. And I would like to start out by saying one of our former guests on the podcast, Sean Yates, who will be finishing his preliminary schooling at the Wash U in St. Louis. Let's see, I won't get the exact date so I don't mess this up, but it was on April 27th. 50 protesters from the university and community gathered at Wash U in St. Louis. Alumnus with the school, who was a current student at Columbia University, spoke at the event. Police from Richmond Heights, St. Louis County, St. Louis Metro, and Wash U were called to disperse the small crowd. Among those who were arrested, U.S. Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein and her campaign managers. During the arrest, police broke the ribs of one of the history professors of Wash U, Professor Steve Tamari. So, this whole thing is getting out of hand. I'm going to go on record as saying that this is, from top to bottom. We've done shows about the whole Israeli-Palestinian thing and how this has gone on way too long. But now we're getting these protesters, and maybe this does tie in a little bit with the whole thing with disconnected teens and young people. But I really would like to gather these kids up and ask them, okay, what is this debate about? What exactly are you protesting about? Because if you look so this article that I've pulled up here, in pretty much, if I zoom in on my map here, let me click on my map, and I'll switch it over here on our internet screen so the folks who are watching. So this is actually a map of the current protest in the United States, and you can see here, even in Montana. Here we have protests. California, so in Missouri, UMKC, Mizzou, looks like Southwest Missouri State, Wash U, SEMO, have all had these pro-Palestinian, and every time that they have these, and the overwhelming theme that I'm seeing in these pro-Palestinian rallies is that they're setting up tent cities, and a lot of the hubbub that's coming out of these pro-Palestinian riots is basically, well, there has been some, the most popular one that happened at Columbia University, okay, and at Columbia University, this is where they had basically a pro-Zionist, pro-Israeli group and pro-Palestinian groups clash, and police in riot gear were called to come in. So as of what is today? Today is the 8th. As of today, so this article is very current. As of today, 2,900 protesters have been arrested, including faculty and members faculty members and professors on nearly 60 U.S. campuses. And with the most being at the ones that are listed here is Columbia University, which is obviously a university in New York City. And where was the other one at? The other big one was Cal Poly. So this is, and the outcry in all of this is against, well, where are the kids' rights, the freedom of speech, and the freedom of the right to protest? Here's what I have to say. You're paying to go to an institution of higher learning. Obviously, you're going to have a blending of ideas and a blending of cultures. And instead, these protests, the thing that, I'm not really, I'm very for the Israelis in this, but at the same time, the way they've handled Hamas hasn't been nice. But there needs to be, when you look at these rallies and when you look at these protests, there looks like it's not really a discussion as it is so much, you filthy Zionists, oh, you filthy murderous Palestinians. But I don't know. What's your thoughts on this, Sean? I don't want to ramble all the time here, but what are your thoughts on some of what?
They're very, reminiscent of a lot of the protests that I worked, over the last couple of years. There are voices that are loud that don't necessarily understand what the actual root of the problem is. Here's the thing. You and I have spoken about it at length. Protest can be they're a great thing. Hell, our country was founded on protest. Here's wherein lies the issue. So now we're circling back, and God love Macklemore from 2011 of fame when he was all the rave.
Mm-hmm.
Decided to drop a diss track on Israel and white
I forgot
supremacy.
all about that.
Let's not. So get this: the diss track against Israel, which was for Palestine, mentions on more than one occasion how it is white supremacy that is the problem in our nation. Macklemore is a fucking idiot. He's always been an idiot because in his very pro-gay song, he has to acknowledge several times, but I'm not gay. But I'm not gay. It's cool if you're gay, but don't get it confused. I'm not gay. Fuck you, Macklemore. You've always been a bitch, and that's my 10 cents there.
Oh,
But
man.
But the thing is, there are a lot of people that are very loud when they don't know what they're loud for. There is absolutely nothing wrong with protesting. I mean, how Israel has handled what has gone on with Hamas. Again, you're right. It's not right. There are children that are dying. There are innocent civilians that are dying. It's not a, and it's horrible. And some people argue, well, that's war. And while I'll agree, yeah, that is war.
Yeah,
it's shitty. It's horrendous and it's awful. And we don't want these things to happen. At the same time, when there are Israeli citizens that are slaughtered and killed by Hamas, and then Hamas goes and buries themselves amongst the Palestinians, you have to ask yourself, how do you expect them to react? Do you expect them to be attacked and then not respond?
right.
We see it in America all the time. You see individuals that are, let's take gang warfare, right? You are on top of someone and you attack an individual or you attack another gang, and then you're with your family at home, and then that rival, your ops come and they shoot up your whole house and they kill your grandmother, they kill your mother, they kill your child in your home. That happens all the time in the United States.
Right.
So it's the same exact thing. We are just seeing it on a grander scale where there's money involved. Now, why a lot of people are protesting is they're saying this is America's fault. This is America's doing because America is funneling
Is
money
funding the money.
into
Yeah.
Israel, funding this war campaign. We have been allies with Israel, if I'm not mistaken, since like the 1940s.
1948
Yes.
from
So
the very
this
beginning.
dates back. Okay. And mind you, it is not like Israel since it was founded, um, has been at peace ever since. It has always been an
Been at war.
ongoing struggle
Right.
for power since its inception. So we step back and we go, okay, you are we are supporting an ally, because again, this is where things get tough, because you look at it, you look at Israel as an ally, right? They're an ally of ours.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just put this Palestinian war to the side. Let's say that's not going on, and let's say Russia decides to attack the United States. Israel is a superpower that we have as an ally that has our back during those kinds of crises.
Right.
So
Right.
you look at this, and that is why we are allies. I mean,
You
again, this is a much grander scale. This might not be the right comparison,
well,
but
I
we all
mean,
have friends that do shitty things.
right.
We all have friends that make poor decisions. It doesn't mean that, like, just some people cut them off. Yes. However, there's a big difference when it comes to these are superpower allies. This is like if Superman took up issue with something that Batman did. Yeah, in some comics they're going to duke it out, but most of the time they're just going to look at each other and say, "You're a fucking idiot." No, you're an idiot. Shake hands and go about and
Right.
do their thing.
Well, I go back
So
to I mean, you talk about our ally, a real life situation. The first Desert Storm. I mean, if it was not for the Israeli Air Force, I mean, they were deeply involved with our actions on Iraq, the war in Iraq, the first war in Iraq. So yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you on that.
and so when we look at everything that has gone down, um, we know this is not right.
Mm-mm.
Are we the two to just say nope, this is how it has to be? No. Are any of us? No. It's a much deeper issue than that. But what's annoying, again, you are more than allowed to protest at college campuses. Where the issues lie are where you start blocking students for going to finals that don't have anything to do with anything that's going on. I
Right.
saw countless videos. One was at UCLA, which thank God I'm no longer in Los Angeles because I
Right.
was less than a mile from that campus. And you you have students that are non-Jewish students that are just trying to walk on a campus, and yet they are
Caught up in
bullied
right.
and by pro-Palestinian protesters, not allowing kids to go to class. And some of these Palestinian protesters don't even fucking go to UCLA. Like they're not even students.
That's the other thing that came up over and over and over again, that a lot of these people who are being arrested on in many of these protests are not even students at the universities.
Mhm.
That's not just at UCLA. That happened
Across the nation.
across the nation,
Mhm.
which that to me is something that's very concerning. Okay, and I want to go back to I kind of which I often do get sidetracked, but when you're paying to attend these institutions of higher learning, okay, so you're paying to go and receive services from someone else, and those services include getting an education, having rights as a student, like you said, UCLA, go to class, but you're kept from going to class because of these protesters. And then even some of these protesters aren't even from campus. So it should be in the full rights of the administration. If you're critical of them or not, it should be within their full rights of the administration to go of that college to go and say, okay, university police, local police, go in there, clear out these encampments, and get these people out of here, because not everybody is on. I mean, there are some kids who just they want to go to class, like you said, and want to get to class, get back, and by allowing, you know, can you have a rally? Sure, have a rally, but when you do this whole we're going to be encamped in place, and we're going to set up these tent cities, and we're going to make life a living hell for any, like you said, bully kids who are trying until our voices are heard. You don't have. I've always said this: rights are relative. Yes, you have the right to protest, but your rights are relative to that kid who's trying to get to class. You have the right. Your rights are relative to people who are pro-Israeli. You have to abide. This whole thing of it's my way and I'm entitled, and you're going to listen and you're going to agree with what I say, or else I'm going to, I don't buy that. I really don't. And I see a lot of these, like you said, and like you said earlier, a lot of these pro-Palestinian, these protesters saying, going back because, well, we're just, the whole white supremacy and America's funneling all this money in. And okay, so in the end, my question to these protesters are, what's your end game? What's your end game? What are you hoping to accomplish? Yes, you are showing your discontent. Okay? It's different when I look back to protests of the past. Okay? If I go back to women getting the right to vote, women who would go on hunger strikes when they were put to prison, or women like Mary Chapman Catt or Susan B. Anthony, who were arrested countless times for trying to go to vote, and women who protested outside the White House in 1917, and then civil rights movement of African Americans who had sit-ins at Greensboro, at Greensboro, North Carolina, having sit-ins at lunch counters, or refusing to ride buses. There was national attention to say, okay, here's what needs to change. This is something that the American government needs to address. Okay? Now, can the American government address this issue? We have addressed this issue. We've made it known, along with other NATO nations, to Israel, hey, let's dial it back a little bit. Yes, we know you want to eliminate Hamas, but the means by which you are doing that, like you said, you have those friends who can make some really bad decisions. You're still going to stand by your friends. But in the end, my question again to these, what's your end game? What are you hoping to accomplish? And there's part of me that just wants to say, are you protesting just to protest? Or do you really have a goal in mind? And I may be narrow-minded for thinking that way, but at the same time, when I see people who are we're going to go out and just protest. Okay, what do you have a reason for doing it? Are you doing it to do it, or do you actually believe in the cause? Because I would like to think that before this, I don't even remember how long ago it's been since the Hamas, they did that on that concert. Was it like last
7
fall?
months ago?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to ask these kids on these campuses, before that event happened, first of all, how many of you could find Gaza on a map? How many of you knew what Hamas was? How many of you knew what a Palestinian was? How many of you could find Israel on a map? When Israel was invaded by, in the 6-Day War, how many of you were aware of that? How many of you were aware when Egypt and Lebanon and Jordan launched attacks on Israel? How many of you are aware of that? To me, I think it's more of this fashionable thing when we see, let's go get it. It's like they're looking for their generation's event to get involved in. And this is something that's big enough. It's a just cause. Well, can you explain? As a historian, it frustrates me. People who want to get involved in stuff and they don't know what it's about. It's to me, it's like the kid who wears the Nirvana shirt and can't tell you other than Smells Like Teen Spirit, they can't tell you one Nirvana song. It's that kind of mentality. Oh, we're going to be in on the side of the Palestinians. Okay, explain the whole geopolitical scene that caused all this. To me, that's the frustrating thing about it to me.
Yeah, I think it was you're hitting the nail on the head. there's a lot of hypocrisy. Again, there's nothing wrong with protest. Protest is a very good thing. It's good to be vocal, but in cases like these, you know, your dollar is better spent actually, you know, doing things like trying to send aid. And you should be, if you're going to have a large gathering of individuals, instead of just fucking off on a campus where you're not a student at, you should be fundraising. You should be doing things.
Right.
You should be getting petitions. You should be getting signatures. You should be actively trying to do different things to get to your lawmakers and to send money that is aid to the places that you care about, instead of yelling at a bunch of fucking cops, telling them they're racist pigs. Then because then it's like, all right, well, we did this 4 years ago. We've already done this.
We've heard this story before.
So, well, we can definitely dive deep in. I know I'm looking at a couple of updates right now, and as of earlier today, I'm looking at, you know, Hamas says it will not compromise further with Israel to win Gaza ceasefire, which again, that is one of the other issues that, again, herein lies the problem, is Hamas has embedded itself amongst Palestinians. So if you have beef with one cockroach, you're going to spray the whole fucking house.
That's
okay.
An excellent analogy.
It sucks. I cannot stress this enough. It absolutely sucks seeing civilians die. However, Hamas has to be dealt with, and Hamas are master manipulators when it comes to embedding themselves. I remember, before I go off on a tangent, but I know just a couple months ago they set up shop in near a hospital. So when bombs were dropped near their compound, that's where they go. That's where they hide. This is not new. This is terrorist 101. You go to where it is a big deal. Anywho, that's a conversation for next week. But again, to our listeners, thank you all so much for joining us this week. I know we kind of flip-flopped on tangents there, but
real
again,
quick,
it was a great show. It was great talking to you. Fire away.
Those who are watching, here you go. I was able to find it. For those, by the way, this is the book you were looking for right here. Here's the cover of Misery Loves Company. That's the cover you're looking for right there. You see author Tony Phillips there at the top. Misery Loves Company. Support starving artists everywhere. I'm not really starving, but hey, and like I said, I am so very proud of you and your wife, and you guys are making great strides and awesome.
Yes. No, thank you. Yeah, and next week our topic will probably just be the Kendrick and Drake beef. We'll dissect it as two white boys from Middle Missouri. But no, it was great talking to you again. Be a friend, tell a friend, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
All right, we'll see you guys.
Thank you for listening to the Voice of Reason podcast. Be sure to check out our other content on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok.